Welcome everyone. My name is Peter James, CEO of AR Security, and now you are tuning into The Pulse. Today we have two guests on our show. Very excited to introduce them. We have the CEO and co-founder of SPLX, Kristian Kamber, and the CTO and co-founder of SPLX, AG. Pleasure, gentlemen. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
So we have a few topics we're going to cover today. We'll talk about AI security. We'll talk about SPLX, how you guys got started. We'll then look at AI agents and securing AI workflows, okay? So let's get back to the story of how it all began. Kind of just walk us through, what was the spark? How did you guys start the company and what drove you?
Okay. I think it's a long story actually, but I try to sum it up. So
Okay.
no, actually, so I was working like few years abroad. Like I'm originally come from Croatia, obviously Europe and stuff and I was running teams in GTM and specifically in security the last few years, working for companies like Cisco, Zscaler, whatever. And I moved back in COVID actually back home because it was important to have my family close to myself, like a lot of people did in the US as well, right?
Yes.
So, and I met one guy actually on a plane, like randomly, when everything settled down, everything was normal. And I told him like, hey, I'm back now in Croatia, so I want to maybe try out and open up a startup one day. Just give me a call, right, when you're ready. And just 2 years ago now in summer or before summer, I was thinking about doing something with my brother actually, who's also part of the company right now.
Okay.
So, and he called me up. His name is Peter, by the way.
Good guy.
Yeah, good guy.
Okay.
Good guy. So, and he called me up and said, I have my brother-in-law and he has an idea. He wants to present you something. I said, okay, cool. Let's do it. And then basically AG came, right, and presented me the idea, which I think he can share with me as well. Yeah.
No, the start was good. So I was working, let's say, last 10 years in AI, big data, data science, all very similar topics. And my last job was kind of AI lead in startup from Germany. I was working a lot with banks, insurances, that kind of financial industry. And I saw they have like already half year after ChatGPT went out, they had 300 LLM deployments across different clouds, but they had 0 things in production. So I went and checked all the open source projects, where are the guardrails, what is offensive. There was, I think, only a tool called Garak back then. Okay, so I said, okay, there is huge gap, and the open source things, they're not on the enterprise level, right? So I see why tools are not going to production. I had my own idea. I built the whole platform around that, right? Tried to pitch it in that small startup, but it was not kind of product company. So I decided to reach out to Chris or my brother-in-law. Like it was ton of coincidence, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's a good understanding. I think, sometimes when you randomly meet people or you're introduced to people and they have really good ideas, the energy matches, you'll be surprised what you can create in that
That's
space.
the best way.
No, definitely. I definitely agree. So now I'm curious, like what would you say one of your biggest challenges was as you were building the company up? What would you comment on that?
I mean, biggest challenges was definitely the market readiness. The market wasn't ready. So as Ante said, we started first building kind of first AI security products. One of them was actually guardrails and securing AI chatbots applications in real time, runtime. And we couldn't really sell that to our original market, which is basically Europe, Germany, Central Europe, whatever, because there were nothing in production, right? So for us, it was more an educational market, like just people educating more people, doing consultancy. We call it AI risk assessment still. So it was still hard, right? And then basically after some time, we found out, okay, we need to switch a bit on the red teaming side as well, and also try to find out what are the vulnerabilities in order to secure them. One thing, and the second thing is also to completely focus on the US market. So already thinking about moving and stuff but the challenges are they're moving. Like 2 years ago, that was defining the market.
Yes.
And now it's other things like scaling, hiring people. Like it's a never-ending story. Like we can talk about that all day, right? But it's if you're in the game, if you're completely dedicated to the business, and you know that yourself as well, it's like running a family, right? There's always problems. Like sometimes bigger problems, sometimes smaller problems.
No, that makes total sense. And now let's talk about that defining moment, right? So you've started the company, you have your tool. What was the moment that kind of clicked to you that, okay, we've built something, it's going to be big, and now it's changing lives. Lives is probably too strong, but it's making a change in the market.
Yeah, I would say it happened not that far ago, because obviously first year we were too early in the market. Then we shifted to US, focused more on West Coast clients, got first few scale-ups as early adopters, let's call it like that, for small licensing amounts. And I would say that combined with the fundraise, this was the key thing. When we were confident, okay, now we have time to build, now we have financials to invest into right directions. We don't need anymore to do any services. So it offloaded us a lot, because you asked previous question, like what was the challenge?
Yes.
The fundraising, right? Chris is like born GTM leader.
Yes.
I'm more tech guy, builder, right?
Yeah.
In fundraising, we didn't have a clue. Like, I think first 10 VC calls were fighting each other first 10 minutes. They're looking like, guys, are you crazy, right?
Yeah.
Then we realized, like, okay, you are fundraising. Second thing that VC asks you, like, how long do you know each other? We said like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It was a red flag on the second minute. So like 2 weeks after that, we said like, we sleep together in the hotel for years, right? So it was like gradual progress in the fundraising and this whole business part, which we had to do. It was not easy because it was done for the first time. Like being first time founder, I think you need to learn a lot of things and do a ton of mistakes.
Thing, what he said, that's a big thing. I think also to sum it up, when I really felt it's wow, because we raised the second round within 8 months.
Okay, wow.
So it was not built only on customer base, but also kind of a hype, and people were real. And as he said, if you compare us 2 years ago, we're talking to partners, clients, and VCs, and now it's completely different. So what I think made us really strong is learning fast, adopting different opinions and stuff. Like, but I think he's completely right. It was the hype around the fundraise and everything like that. It's going to be a huge market, because we're fighting, like, understand, like, is there a market fit? Is there, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But still, there is no doubt anymore. Like, if I wish, and always people ask me, like, if I wish I could have even quit my job 1 year earlier, if I knew that. Honestly, I would have quit my job 1 year earlier, at least.
And that just brings me to my next point. I mean, we have a lot of, potential founders, people watching this podcast. So if you can give them two most important, I would say, advice that you would provide them, what would that be?
Yeah, I would say number one would be hire or work with the people who are completely different from you. This is the key learning I had. Okay. Second one, try to develop or sell as much as you can before fundraising, right? Because you get to the higher stage, high valuation, you lose less of the company, and then you have less worries in the next rounds. This is from my side, yeah.
Yeah, and surround yourself with advisors who are bringing new things you don't know.
Okay.
I think that relies with hiring people who are not like you.
Yeah.
I think good advisors. We done a ton of mistakes with advisors, actually, and same applies to investors.
Yeah.
Pick really who will be your investor, and as he said, try to do as long as you can, like Bootstrap and yourself, and build kind of a brand. But I think there's no perfect rule or whatever, like, or recipe. I think you need to enjoy it, right? If you don't enjoy it, like, after a few weeks, months, just stop it, right? It will not get better. It's the same for everything in life.
Yeah, I agree. I think, unfortunately, we're in a stage in society where hard work is overlooked. And, I always tell people, my friends or people that I meet, you're more inclined to help someone that's already pushing a car that stopped than that's sitting on the side of it. Because you see them that they're already working. They already have momentum. They already have the drive. And I think that helps you understand, like, who you're actually working with, your partner, what that looks like for the future of the company. Because that grit, that AQ, adaptability, that's what you really need to be successful in this day and age.
Yeah, and be motivated, right?
Yeah.
What you said is important. Like, why you want to be a founder? Right?
Yeah.
I knew my motivation. I had several motivations. I came from a background with family. Both our dads had family businesses.
Yes.
So we want to prove yourself a bit. You need to be honest. Why you want to do this? It's not only about wealth and providing for your family. We had good careers. We're not the youngest founders, right?
Yes.
But proving yourself to different people, proving yourself to the family, showing that you're different. I always set the motto, right? Always be different. When you work in a big corporate, like I used to,
Yes.
you can't be different always. It's political correctness and stuff, which is not easy, right?
No,
And now we can be open, we can be casual, we can be anything,
yes.
right? And then yeah.
No, I think I agree 100% with both of you guys' statements. Now let's switch to another segment where we talk about the current state of AI security. So things are changing rapidly. New security controls are now required. So based on what you guys are seeing right now, what would you say are some of the trends as it relates to AI security threats that you see the most in comparison to others?
I think you mean solving AI, or how do you mean? What do you mean in AI security?
I would say solving vulnerabilities or identifying threats that you
Yeah.
see that's most common in different
As
AI
I said
solutions.
before, like I think when we started, or later on after, when we entered the US market, there were a lot of vendors and companies coming out offering guardrails. So basically, securing the perimeter, securing, like building AI firewalls, how they call it, right? And because that's the natural way when you've been in security for decades, you know that,
Yes.
like you first build defensive toolings, you put a firewall in place, you try to secure something, you do blue teaming, right?
Yes.
And now this year the trend is completely shifted, and it appears that he was right with the trend going first, or shift left, and testing, that we found out that basically all of our, I would say, market companions are going now into red team, because you can't save everything in the AI firewall. It doesn't behave like a standard firewall or whatever. You can't just do blacklisting and whitelisting.
Yes.
You need to prohibit things, and you need to open up things. Then you can still surpass the prompt or the system prompt. You know what I mean? Or
Yes.
and stuff. And now it's a lot of companies are shifting left. What we are doing, and there's a huge market. So I think last year the market was around $25-30 million.
Okay.
And this year we expect at least $100 million.
That's a huge
So, and
shift. Yeah.
we have about 20-30 serious players in the market, and it's only going bigger. Like even with Gartner and Forrester featuring those things in their reports,
Yes.
as cool vendor reports and stuff, the trend is huge, right? And I think it's really, really, we're still debating about end to end, like whether we should build red team, blue team as well, both, because from that from a traditional security standpoint, how would you assess something which you have built, right?
Yeah.
So
And I think that's really important because I feel like in the space of AI right now, our traditional red teaming has changed, right? Initially, you probably just needed someone that knew the ins and outs of an application, right? But now with AI, it's layered. It's not only the application, now the LLM, the infrastructure, governance, compliance, right? Now these different pieces are coming into play that we need to account for. So AI red teaming looks a bit different. It's not only just technical, right? It's other things like frameworks, standards and governance. So help me understand like what that looks like with you and the customers and how you're approaching AI red teaming.
Yeah, perfect. So exactly like you asked the last question, what's the trend? What we now started doing most last 4 to 5 months, research and also the content on, is AI transparency. And we published tool called Agentic Reader exactly because of that. And the biggest application of such tool is exactly compliance, because it's not anymore about what components do you have. Like I have my database, I have my Jira, I have Confluence, I have Action to send email, I have this LLM in there, right? It means nothing without visibility in how this is connected. Like, can the
Yes.
data from your database later be leaked to the internet by calling web scraper agent, which searches something and gives you answer back? So I believe the cornerstone for compliance and all the new frameworks coming around AI will be more about AI transparency. Even I saw a lot of in US going in red teaming direction. I'm confident it will change. If you look EU Act, for example, in there, there's kind of ethical assessments, different ways how to detect which kind of risk level you are, how you should protect AI, how you should govern it. But at the end, it's all about transparency. Like, can you make to the outside proof that you are using AI in a correct way? So this is the biggest trend we are now trying to set up. be again the first movers, but I think it's really realistic. It's not hype. This is something which will be needed like year from now everywhere. Yeah,
I agree. I think, when we look at traditional standards, right? Like it's NIST 853, ISO 2701, et cetera, it's more compliance based, right? Enforcement, tracking, having like an actual proof of a control and testing against that control, automating that and making it, to your point, more transparent. So, hey, I have a microservice connecting to my database to perform X function. How can I evaluate that connection and integrity of the data, making sure that it doesn't leave unauthorized? Like, how do I see that time and time again and evaluate that control? I think having that type of understanding, and maybe we're reaching a point where we're in that space to where we can have that visibility, is something that I think, to your point, could be very beneficial and create that transparency. So having those mappings, et cetera. So I think that's a real good thing. I wanted to end with this segment by asking this one question, right? What would you say is the biggest misconception with AI security that you want to communicate?
yeah. So from my side, it's about priorities, right? As Chris said, everybody went into guardrails, but let's say you don't want to give type of advice, or let's say not talk about drugs in your chatbot's assistants, whatever, right? You have hundreds of corner cases. Now imagine putting all those policies in AI firewalls. It's much better when the caching came out last autumn, right? It's much better to put most of those rules in this business logic, in the system prompt. So I think this thing that people thought, okay, AI guardrails, AI firewalls will bite, will be safe. No way. Like,
you make a good point, because I think, in dealing with customers, really mapping out the use cases of the persona of the LLM for their chatbot. Like, what is the scope that this chatbot needs to stick to and not get out of? So I feel like if you just put like content filters and protection around like what quote unquote is harmful information, like, okay, well, what was this LLM trained to understand what harmful information is, or the security tool was trained to understand what harmful information is, and how can we circumvent that? So I feel like even just with basic prompt injection, right? It's, I would say, digitized social engineering, right? Where now instead of me having a social engineering tact on an exact human, I'm now social engineering a human-like bot that was trained on data that I learned also, right? So at least that's how my mind works, to where I'm like, okay, well, I can, you do a lot of on-premise pen testing where you're testing like going into a building, you have like a shoulder full of boxes getting past like a secured area just off human interaction. And I feel like, those same gaps in controls exist even in the controls that people place to secure these AI agents or AI applications. So I think that's a real good point. And I did say AI agent. So that brings me to our next segment about AI agents and their security risk. So right now, first we had, AI applications, everyone's getting really big on LLMs. And now we're like, okay, well, hey, let's create these tools that these LLMs can leverage, or our applications can leverage to improve the functionality. So as this is getting bigger and bigger, more, I would say expanding more, talk to us about some of the potential threats with AI agents that most people may not be aware of.
no, good point. I always go to your previous question, like social engineering. I like that point. It was one of our two biggest exploits, because it's just crazy how it's easy now with assistants. But when you go to the agents, and for me it's always hard because I mix AI workflows and agents. It's very similar. Both of those things have the biggest risk of what I see replacing human actions. Human, when they do some action, okay, human thinks, he's taught from the childhood what to do, what not. He has a ton of education within the company. When you join the company, this is how you should behave. You should treat confidential data different than internal data, different than public data, right? All of that. So basically, you are trained to some extent. And now imagine trying to replace the whole human when deciding when send to email, what to put in the email. Is this phishing? Is this suspicious thing? How does this sensor smell? And like hundreds of other thoughts, which usually regular employee or person working somewhere has. Imagine that replacing just by the LLM and the system prompt. So, and then imagine chaining multiple of those.
Yes.
So it just goes exponentially about how things can go wrong. And I think it's not only about agents. You see here, I was mentioning email, I was mentioning other things. It's about tools surrounding them and how the workflow goes. Because very important, what was like initial when LLMs came out, does it steal my IP? Do I steal other companies' IP, mix it with my own? I create new IP. What then, right? And now the key thing with this IP is it's very similar in agentic systems. It takes data from one knowledge base, then from another database, mixes up together, stores the file on the third space with different kind of privileges. So first, whole safety of the, let's say, thinking process of agents and AI workflows, plus combination of, let's say, actions that they can do with all the tools, it makes it very risky. And when you say, like, would you highlight one thing? I always like to say reg poisoning at this point in time, in this industry, it's very easy to do.
Yeah.
I would just highlight that one, yeah.
And I think that's a good point. And, you know, I think also on a different side, right? Thinking about how adversaries are also using AI to sharpen and or improve their attack mechanisms, right? So now think about what we talked about earlier, right? I'll put some things together, right? So code will be, you know, majority written by AI in the next, 12 months. Like 95% right now is being built by AI, and that will only increase. And so now what you may fall into, right, is potentially applications leveraging the same function calling techniques, specifically, or ways of approaching, resolving an issue within an application. And so if I'm an adversary, I could design an application, like say a banking application, right? Using AI to understand how these things are potentially being built, or these services being built, and reconstruct them. Create AI agents to attack them and understand how they work. And if, code is being built by AI and I'm using AI to develop my own and on the side, and I'm attacking against it, now I have a framework to work with that I probably didn't have at the beginning. So this is now changing the whole landscape of what we're considering unique to customer A versus now what, as an adversary, I have access to. And it's what brings us back to kind of your tool set, right? Because now, I need, a certain level of expertise to perform certain, I would say, pen testing activities on LLMs. And if I don't have those expertise, I need something to help kind of fill that gap and make sure that what I am developing is secure. So talk to us a little bit now. We're going into a different segment of how SPLX can assist companies in securing what they are developing in the AI space.
I mean, you summarized it already pretty well. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, to be honest, like you mentioned a lot of automation, a lot of leveraging AI to secure AI. I think that's clear. We use also AI. We have a tool set called Researcher from day one, which is scraping basically the internet and public files and research papers to search for latest attack variations and stuff, which we call zero-day attacks and whatever, try to verify them with customers on the use case, but we always have human in the loop. That's what I wanted to say, is we have our research team of red teamers who basically check for those adversaries and see like how the tool performs, but also helping them to be faster.
Yeah.
Right. It's a combination because the human eye can sometimes always still see what the automation doesn't see, right? And vice versa.
Yeah.
We have seen even vice versa things. I think that's one thing. And I think when it comes to the agentic radar, I think what Ante mentioned, for me, the biggest value is I track that back to the monitoring space I've been in when we saw like chains of business processes. It's not one application. I saw like in big telcos like 40 applications talking to each other. Like, and you want to inspect the full life cycle. Who's calling what, who's calling which service. And then you do the drill down. Then you do the drill and say, why is that red? You know, you can put your benchmarks, you can put your thresholds, you can drill down, and then you can expect, and then you can basically do the red teaming activities. Because I still believe today, 2025 is showing that doing red teaming activities at scale, because as you said, doing pen test one before, just stop it, have a report. That's not how it works. You know how LLMs behave, non-deterministic. You need to understand how they behave.
Yes.
You're fine-tuning it. You're enhancing it with data. So you need to continuously do the red team. And then you basically get more towards 100% safety, which we cannot guarantee. No one can guarantee today.
Agreed. No, agreed. Yeah. I agree with it. And I think, taking a step back, not only just the pen testing, but having security, as we all know, from the very beginning. So we're talking about, designing the application or workflow or infrastructure in general. And we talked about this earlier, like, cloud security posture management, your infrastructure, evaluating that. How are these things developed? How are they configured in a secure state? What applications are you actually using? If you're running an application on a container, making sure that's secure. Your ML-SecOps is what we call it, right? And making sure from the very beginning to the end, you have end-to-end security. And I think it's known, like DevSecOps is known and SecOps in general, right? But now that we have like ML and AI involved, at least from my perspective, it seems as if people are forgetting, like they go together, right? They're forgetting that this is a part of a big ecosystem that we need to, make sure we have these components within your CI/CD pipeline, making sure you're scanning your images. Like I think, at least I feel that some customers don't necessarily prioritize that integration and that pipeline. And to your point, as you're making changes to your application, having the ability to scan against them, understand if you're compliant, understanding if there's new risk that you need to account for, or add these controls to help prevent potential, I would say, data exposure, etc., is very key and often overlooked. And I think, oftentimes companies could potentially like outsource pen testing to customers that may not have the expertise to properly pen test the application. And so now you're getting, into the realm of, hey, how can I understand that these tests that are actually being performed validate what I'm doing? I think you guys are doing a really good job of framing that and providing that expertise.
Yeah, the thing about CI/CD, that's the cool thing. I don't know, 8-9 months, long time ago, basically, when we released our first platform version, we went immediately out with public templates for CI/CD. Because what we see, like traditional shift-left companies, they have schedulers within the platform. First of all, if you do kind of security testing at scale, and then you have every day scheduled scan for something that's not changed like 300 days, you pay 99% of, I don't know, infrastructure and credits and whatever for nothing, right? So our most advanced customers really put it in a CI/CD to trigger security scans in their productive deployment, only for certain types of scanners, because they don't want always 20 scanners. They have 5 or 6 which are business critical, and they do it only on the major version release, because you need to understand to which level you want to, let's say, automate scanning every time. You need to understand that when you change the business logic, like system prompt, you need 100% to do the rescan. When you upgrade the LLM version, or you significantly increase your data in your database, add new types, or when you add multimodality attachments to your assistant, these are major changes. You need to have proper major change, like upgrade annotation by the developer, and your pipeline needs to track it. And this is what I like find, at least from my perspective, as a perfect balance of having automate security testing, and on the other hand, not having it too much. And you see, again, human is there. Somebody needs still to tag, this is major version, this is minor. This will be also automated in next year or two, right? Fully. But you need to find a smart way not to burn the money, the infrastructure, and everything, right?
But you said one important topic on the scanners, like we don't have a standard today. Let's take compliance aside for a moment, but what are the standards for AI security today? What are the risks we are looking for? Like, and we spoke about it earlier. We are mostly, or our clients are looking for hallucination testing, performance testing, QA testing, URL fact checking. Is there anything okay? Is the brand okay? That's not security per se, right?
Yes.
You would think, okay, I mean, security is like, hey, data leakage and like PII masking, whatever. It's the complete opposite, because what people are doing, like just ship, like they just ship, they put things in production and then just like, hey, is this working? How many I don't knows I don't get here, right?
Yeah.
Why is this hallucinating, right? So I think once there is a common standard for AI security practices and weaknesses and vulnerabilities, it will explode.
Yeah.
It will explode, because then will people feel even more accountable. I don't think that's compliance.
Yeah. I mean, you raise a real good point. I feel, and we talked about this earlier, security is expanding to different verticals, right? And now it's being more engulfed into like different, I would say, roles that currently they didn't probably have to worry about security. And specifically in AI, like it's combining these different roles. And now, to your point, accountability, they have to worry about it. Like hallucinations, for like, that's not secure. That's not my scope, but it is, because now if the model is communicating, or your chatbot is communicating things that are not true, that could ruin the brand. So think of it like an airline that has a chatbot and it's hallucinating on prices.
Yeah.
That's out of scope of actually what the prices are. There's been litigation where the airline was, they were actually, they were held to that price from the chatbot. So I think, being able to understand these different concepts, being able to understand where security now is entering is very key.
And it's not only regarding business. Sorry to interrupt here. It's not only regarding securing businesses. We saw the character AI thing, right? We've did a research on that. The kid took his life because an AI avatar was telling him to do so.
Yeah.
So, and then also, what's bias? For whom is bias? If something is bias for you, what's not bias for me? How you want to attract the customer, right?
Yeah.
Like if you use an AI, you're playing with a lot of fire. So it's not only B2B, and it's not only putting, just as we said before, in just a standard firewall and you're okay. Like people are fear their jobs, losing their jobs. So that's why they went into blue teaming like heavily.
Yeah.
It's not a way how you do it, right? As of now, there will be many, many tools. We didn't spoke about shadow AI, about inspecting, doing log analysis, monitoring. There's many, many use cases. And I think, yeah, repeating again, if there is no global standard, and I think there will be a global standard very soon, you can't just ship.
I totally agree. Now, we're getting into kind of our last segment here, where we're talking about AI trends and the future of AI security. So I do want to understand from both of you, what emerging AI technologies or trends excite you the most?
Maybe he will answer, but that's a funny one.
I have too many answers to this one.
I have 2,000 answers, thousands answers. I think we can't mention names and obviously in companies, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But I would say you should look at countries and regions and industries.
Okay.
Right, and then you see the trends were in there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and what I don't know what excites me most. I think there's, first of all, it's dangerous. That's one thing.
Yeah.
And I believe fully we're doing a good thing for society. That's one thing.
Yes.
Because second is with the adoption of usage of AI, we spoke about it recently about our team internally. There's some people are more traditional, some people are less traditional. What if like all people are adopting even more AI? I just read an article today about the AI CMO.
Oh, wow.
Right? We talk about AI SDR.
Yeah.
What if like all those people are really forced to use AI for enhancing their automation of thought? Like that really, I mean, it causes some, I'm cautious, right?
Yeah.
But on the other hand side, a lot of people will be forced to use that. What happens then with the explosion of usage of AI, right?
Yeah.
And then what also excites me and what is really interesting about our job is like we've been across the globe, okay?
Yes.
We have a client in the Middle East, in Asia, like everyone has different priorities.
Yeah.
Like everyone. You talk about, then you go industry, healthcare, financial services, retail, telcos.
Yes.
Everyone has different pains, right? So this is like that's what excites me to see what's happening. we did some adversarial testing where we in the US we captured server data.
Yeah.
Like of course we had the approval that said capture server data like senator files and stuff.
Oh wow.
And I was shocked that this is even possible through Python code execution and stuff. Like amazing what is happening. On the other hand side, it causes caution, right? So
yeah, for sure.
So I think what excites me in a nutshell is like really the rise of adoption, and a lot of people are really need to do that. And myself first, right? I need to have even more adoption on the AI side.
Oh, that's good. I like the answer.
Yeah.
All right.
And our kids are already using it. Like he's reading
they are.
to his kids already AI stories and good night stories. Like it scares me on the other hand side, but on the other hand side, I'm forced because of my job to learn, to adopt, and I'm not staying still.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like that.
But in the terms of the tooling, right? As he said, it's replacing me telling bedtime stories to my kids.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm mainly excited about replacing human in their daily activities and tools supporting that, like AutoGPT. There are multiple very good open source projects which basically try to think and reason, circle back all the time, really to get same opinions like human does, have the same kind of checking, is it safe, should I do this, blah blah blah, even check with some other agents from time to time when you are not sure as an agent. So this is technology that kind of I see in near future. There'll be much more projects about that, much more open source projects about that. Of course, security risks are related to that, but really replacing humans in any part of daily life or work, and tools doing that, it's the biggest trend I see in next, let's say, 5 years.
And even one thing, maybe a bit more futuristic, but I remember we were sitting, or we were driving the Waymo in San Francisco a year ago, me and Ante, and I told him, like in joke, I said, look, this car will be driven by AI one day. And I say, I don't forget about it. There was one of his friends, I think, doing also robotics and AI and stuff. But look what's happening. You know?
Yeah.
I think the sky is the limit. I think the sky is the limit, and I'm curious to see what's gonna happen. But that's definitely the next step, right?
Yeah. For me, I think I would say I'm excited to see what people build when code is no longer a barrier to stop them from creating what's in their head. I feel like, for quite some time, most people may not have the acumen to, develop due to them not understanding how to code. And now that we have like no code applications or like text to code, and those platforms are great. And now, when you have those type of opportunities or that those services available to you, what can you build now? The limit is the veil has been, removed. And now, these opportunities are different. I saw a real good article about the change of creation and how investments will move towards more people instead of companies in the future, where people who have, a following on social media and have access to these tools that they can create different things, investors will now start to pour money into the people who are tied to these different companies.
Yeah. And look at the pressure what Sam Altman did. Sam Altman said there will be $1 billion company, which is a one-man company.
Yeah.
But now we have a different pressure. You saw with the Chinese models coming in.
Yes.
Everything is about AI. Who's going to build a better AI, the faster, the cheapest?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that will impact also, that's why security is interesting for me. We discussed it today on a call as well, like why security has always been made the best in the US. It comes from military as well.
Yeah.
Military intelligence and stuff. We have the IDF in Israel as well. They've been a long time in the game.
Yeah.
Like it's super connected. Now it gets very interesting. It's going to be a race. And I think an endless race, and that's why a lot of VC money has been put in that business.
Yeah, and I think another aspect to me is as you mentioned security, but more like a tie-in between like reasoning and understanding different nuances and like a common SOC, right? So you look at level 1 engineers who are, dealing with certain types of tickets or understanding different threats that are coming into a particular organization from a SIM and being able to evaluate what that means as a potential risk, or understanding, unpacking malware, understanding like if it's, benign or malicious, in a more less false positive way?
That's a very good topic.
Yeah.
Because if you just now relate what you just said with your previous thoughts, I always saw that best software engineers, AI people, are, let's say, 10x better than the other one. And now with agents,
Yeah.
they have possibility to be 100x better.
Yeah.
And now imagine having in the big companies one-man SOC teams. It will be basically very skilled security practitioner who, you explained everything, right?
Yes.
Knows to work and knows to set up, configure, deploy all the tools very fast. And it's like in football, right?
Yes.
There'll be agents taking care of such people, and it's insecurity in software everywhere. So it's.
But that scares me also because I used to live many decades in Germany, right? And we see a decline in the economics, right? I need to go back to the economics because they're not leveraging AI and modern technology like you guys do.
Yes. Yes.
Like what he said just right now, it's just not being scared and doing the things, and you will easily see what's 10x, what's 100x, what's not, right? It's unbelievable, right?
But also it's a really good opportunity to bring solutions to countries where they're not probably leveraging AI in a capacity where they can 10x, 100x, what they're looking to get out of, different sectors, right? If you look at, different countries that are not as advanced in technology as others, now we have the ability to say, hey, to the government, this is what we can do for your services that you provide to your citizens.
And it's great what you said, the accessibility, right? AI will be easily accessible from everyone in the world. It's like mobile phones.
Exactly.
You have a lot of countries, let's say Africa, whatever, they don't have computers.
Yes.
Like you have businesses completely relying on mobile phones.
Yes.
The use of AI is same.
I agree.
And I always do the comparison to cloud. It needs to be much bigger than cloud.
Yes.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Think about it logically, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that idea because I feel like, to your point, as this expands, because we already have, I guess, reachability with what we have with cloud, and AI is, I would say, something that we can either build locally or in the cloud, which makes it more accessible across the globe with, infrastructures between, Azure, AWS, GCP, your major big three players. But now you have other, cloud platforms as well. They can quickly deploy with a fraction of the cost, right? And it gets me to the point where we're talking about like agentic workflows and platforms now, to where we're now automating all this, and we can deploy one-man shop a few specific workflows that would take maybe 3 to 4 months to prototype. Now, and so we're getting into that space, and I'll leave with that thought. Like, what's your conception, or what's your perspective on the current state of like agentic workflow platforms? And are there a few that you like the best?
Yeah, so there is a ton of players.
Okay.
I know. I don't have personally the leader I could kind of say should win or will win. I think it will consolidate a lot. At the moment, there are, I think, 20 frameworks. I could now name them. Nathan, QAI,
we know them.
LangGraph, right?
Yeah.
But there is still not a clear winner.
Okay.
Like even OpenAI SDK, LangChain, LangGraph, which are, let's say, maybe the biggest ones.
Yes.
You expect them to win the market. It easily might not happen. So I would be really cautious making any prediction on that. Yeah.
And I think it's not a winner takes it all market. When we started, a lot of people told us it's going to be one or two major models and the rest will just follow, and there will not be a huge adoption. I think the opposite is happening. The opposite is happening, and that basically gives a much more, possibilities basically to check for things and security, much more complexity. And I think, it's still good basically that you have the possibility to shape this market, as he said, with your workflows.
No, that makes total sense. And last question in this segment: if there's one thing that you can change about how this industry approaches AI security, what would it be?
Tough question.
I try to bring them out.
I think changing from traditional approach to a more modern open approach.
Okay.
Because if you mean the industry, you mean with AI security, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, we are fighting against windmills every day. So I can tell you a few examples. Like you have your business, you're a partner, you're a trusted partner. Maybe you have the cutting edge technology, latest stuff you're gonna build, you're gonna bring to your customers. And then on the other hand side, you're gonna have the big four. You're gonna have someone else, and the customers are going there first, buying like very expensive stuff, right?
Yes.
And getting their advice just to be safe on a paper.
Yes.
And then they're still gonna buy some cutting edge stuff, right?
Yeah.
We fighting windmills. It's politics, I think. And a lot of big players are entering the market. They're going to acquire a lot of businesses. They're going to acquire a lot of skills.
Yes.
Because we talked about skills.
Yes.
And that's part of the business we're talking about every day. That's a challenge. I don't think it will change that fast, but a lot of companies will come up and win here. I'm sure it's not a winner takes it all.
Yeah, I would be very close to that assumption with saying the security should change into smaller shops. So you should be buying from like top domain experts who have security solutions for that.
Yes.
You cannot go to one, I won't name, let's say big company, expect to buy the best guardrail for, let's say that they're the best in the healthcare, fintech, telco and everything. No way. I would rather, as a security practitioner, look to buy from a much smaller shop who show that they are specialized, especially in, let's say, last 1 year, because the company that was very good in security 5 years ago, with the pace of changing, it's maybe not longer true. So you should look for the recent reference and for the smaller shop. I think this will be the change on security market. Yeah,
I agree. And I think, to your point, just to piggyback on that, how fast things are changing in terms of like, and I think it's different from different perspectives, right? As a security practitioner, we're, chasing these changes to make sure we understand the risk associated with them. Organizations are chasing these changes to understand what new features they can provide or what new services they can build.
Yeah.
And, ISVs are changing to keep up and provide these services.
Spot on. You said one thing, speed and be quick. We speak about bias. Some people say fairness.
Yes.
Stupid example, but very common.
Okay.
There's no standards. There's no standards in wording. There's no standards in practices. So what else do we have? We need to be fast. We need to adapt to the market. And sometimes we fail, but often we're right. And then with a few new things, put it on the market, try to attract people, try to see what we can help.
Yes.
You need to go fast. Having this mentality is not sustainable for decades, I think, right? But we're now in this mode, and I think as we grow, I think as I said before, again, the challenge we have, the same challenge like everyone. It's people. It's like, having everyone on board and being basically open to those things. It's not easy.
I agree. And we've talked about a lot. We've talked about, the birth of your company, how you guys met, which is a very interesting story, might I add. We talked about like AI security in its state, the future, AI agents. We've covered quite a bit in this segment. My final thoughts on AI security and kind of where we're going, and just in general, is that, to your point, rapid change, rapid adjustment, understanding the landscape, and understanding security in general, like the core foundations. I feel like if you have that understanding, you can adapt very well. And if you understand, this is my key term, understand how to learn, which is really a real acute skill that is required in today's society as we have constant change. I'll give you a few examples, right? There's been a lot of different times where, you're talking to a customer or you're seeing things come out that's a new feature, new capability that you need to be able to consume, understand how this affects you and what you're doing, and adapt. And this requires reading up about the technology, understanding the interworkings of it from a security perspective so that we can see what risks are associated with it. And that is a small window before either a competitor or a customer is asking you for that information. So I definitely want to leave with that thought of, improving your AQ, teaching yourself how to actually learn and retain information to execute is like one of my biggest like skill sets that I'm glad that I've increased over the years. Those are my final thoughts. I want to kind of open up the floor for you guys to have some final thoughts on today's
I
segment.
just want to make one analogy. We're today in Dallas. Really appreciate here to be in Texas. Special day, and I want to take, for example, the recent happenings with Luka Doncic. Right?
Yes.
He didn't play defense, right, in Dallas, right? Everyone was complaining about it, like, and I saw the last game, like, and I saw some snippets, like he's playing defense, right?
Yes.
I think people throw in he used to say that wording a lot, threw the people in the water and the fire and just let them do stuff.
Yeah.
And that happened to me, a lot of things, and I still don't believe how we made it here still today, be speaking to you. Like 2 years ago, I was still employed with Zscaler.
Yeah.
Like, imagine that.
Yeah.
And that's unbelievable, right? So, and what we did, and I think that's why I'm saying, like, keep changing, and then you'll see when you get into hard situations, right?
I definitely understand. AJ, do you have any last thoughts?
Yeah, first, thanks for having us. Really nice and deep podcast, and I'm always referencing back to your last thoughts because they're really good. Speed of learning, pace of learning. This is the key thing. You don't look at CV, like which programming languages, you look at achievements, right?
Yes.
So 100% with that. And yeah, really, it's good to see that people who are for decades in security, like yourself, taking care about AI, being serious about that, and understanding speed of adoption and speed of change. This is what kind of gives me belief that everything won't go bad, right, in the future. So yeah, thanks for that.
Oh, you're welcome. And where can our listeners find you? How can they get in contact with you?
I mean, they can find us on our website, SPLX.ai.
Okay.
We're on every social media, on X, on LinkedIn. We're this year at many events. We're going to be at RSA. We're going to exhibit at B-Sides in San Francisco. We like the practitioner, smaller events.
Okay.
B-Sides very well known in the country. He was a lecturer, actually guest lecturer at B-Sides New York.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're based out of the East Coast, but we're a lot on the West Coast, being also Midwest, BurpSec, Chicago. So we're doing a lot of events, but main events this year are definitely RSA, B-Sides. I would say InfoSec and Black Hat. So I'm guessing we're gonna release something big at Black Hat.
Okay.
So for summer, we're preparing something big to basically fulfill the requirements of our clients and customers on the platform, and keep you posted. And that's it.
Well, on the behalf of AR Security and the Pulse podcast, I want to thank you guys for coming today. I really appreciate you guys, and we had a really good conversation. First guest on our show, but I don't think it'll be the last, and we'll do some real good things together. I want to thank everyone for tuning in today to the Pulse, and be on the lookout. We'll post some links below of some new open source tools by our good friends here at SPLX, and some exciting templates. Thank you so much for tuning in. Goodbye.